Myself, Ajmer Singh Malik, Professor in Public Administration, Kurukshetra University, Kurukshetra. Now, the external method of formal control we are discussing. External means those are exercised by the external agents or the external agencies. Normally, external control structures are created and provided in the Constitution itself. We have, and these may be traditionally, the political, executive and legislative control mechanism is there. Political executive control exercised by the political executive. In public administration, we call it the executive control. Legislature, we call it the parliamentary control in our country. It may be the legislative control. And it may also be termed as the legislative control. And the third is the judicial control that is exercised by the judicial institution. And these are, as I stated earlier, these are the traditional system of control in the democratic governance. There are other controls also, which are external, but those are not constitutional ones. Those have also been established by the different countries to control the organization or working of the organization. What are those? We will take one by one. The first one is the political executive. That is the ministerial control in another way, or the executive control. The political executive is invariably responsible for all acts of omission and commission of the administrative agency operating under it. Many times you get this kind of the news through media that opposition political party is asking for the resignation of the minister because of the omission and commissions has taken place in that particular department under his ministry, under his or her ministry. Why he resigns? The simple explanation for this, or simple answer for this is that all administrative powers are administrative in the political executive, that is the minister of the concerned department. And therefore, whatever is happening in that department, he is responsible for that happening, and that's why that kind of the resignations are demanded. The political executive or the minister play a key role in the formulation of all policies and programs relating to the concerned department. Second aspect. And when he is preparing the policies and programs, naturally, if the policies and programs fails, then it is the onus lies on the minister. If those are commended, again, then credit goes to the minister. So, that's why it is because of the reason that all the administrative and political powers, or all the powers relating to that particular department, that is vested in the political executive. The administrative functionaries are responsible to that political executive or that minister, and for effective implementation of the policies and programs of the department, minister in turn responsible to the legislature. In simple sense, the minister can issue orders relating to the policies and programs. He has the right, or he has the power to give direction to the concerned one to implement it effectively. And that's why all the functionaries in the departments, they were made responsible or accountable to the minister, who in turn is accountable to the parliament, that is the elected representative of the people as per the principle of the democratic governance. This is utilized everywhere in the world in the democratic governance system. And it is an external formal method of control. And there is a separate lecture on this control in some different paper in different semester, and that's why. But here, whatever is required for this purpose, that is being discussed and deliberated with you. The second control mechanism, external control mechanism, is exercised through the legislature, and in India we call it the parliamentary control. What is it? If we go by basics, there are three organs of the state. One is the parliament, we call it the legislature. The another is the executive, we call it the cabinet or the government. The third one is the judicial one. So legislature is one of the three organs of the government or of the state. And naturally, the legislature or the parliament exercise control over the political executive. That is the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministry. This is controlled by our parliament, and this is what we call the control by legislature is called as a parliamentary control or the legislative control. And all the policies and programs, as in the earlier point we discussed, it is the minister who frames the policies and programs. But the individual minister in a parliamentary system is not allowed to take major policy decisions. Because if there is a major policy decision, then many ministries may be involved. Moreover, that is affecting the life of the people as a whole. In such a circumstances, because of the principle of collective responsibility in parliamentary form of governance, the policy approval is must. That the minister takes the approval of the cabinet, and that cabinet takes the approval of the parliament before finalizing the policy. Means policies are approved by the parliament, and that is a very important one. Even if the change is to be made, naturally policies are changed, keeping in view the circumstances and need of the society. If those changes are to be made, that is also to be approved by the parliament. And in such a circumstances, when we are doing that, this is a method of control of the parliament over the executive. Another important thing is keeping in view the policies and programs. Budget is framed, financial allocations are made. When financial allocations are made, budgets are approved by the parliament or by the legislature. No money can be spent without the approval of the parliament. Means another important, there is another principle also. No taxation without representation, no tax can be imposed, and nothing can be spent without the approval of the parliament. And by the method of the financial allocation or the financial control, we discussed it earlier as the budgetary control, but it is more broader than budgetary control. So financial method, that is again a method of legislative control or parliamentary control over the administration or the organization. Besides this, there are many parliamentary committees. You might have heard about the different parliamentary committees on public accounts, estimate committees there, committee on public undertakings are there. There are such departmental standing committees are there in India. So those are also exercising control over the administration. Besides that, the auditing is another method where we control the finance. This is again audit. You will consider that this is an executive agency. No, it is not an executive agency. The Comptroller and Auditor General in India particularly, if we take into consideration, this is a constitutional body, and CAG submit, Comptroller and Auditor General and abbreviated form CAG submit its report to the President, and President laid down that report after its scrutiny by the Public Accounts Committee in the Parliament, and Parliament debate on it. And as a result of that one, there is a control over the administration, and administration cannot or organization cannot spend the money cannot on undesired, in an undesired manner and on undesired activities. This is there are many other means also, question hours and so many methods of the parliamentary control over the administration. Many times it is considered as an effective method of control over the organization, over the department, over the ministry that is there. The third kind of the control is the judicial control, and again, like earlier too, it is a traditional method of control. The judicial control is constitutionally provided. Like the two earlier, it is also constitutionally provided. And it means there is a judicial intervention in the affairs of the state, in the affairs of the parliament as well as executive. Here we are concerned with the executive, that is the organizations. And this judicial intervention is there to protect the rights and liberties of the citizens. Generally, it is exercised through the judicial review, and what the judicial review of the laws enacted law framed by the parliament, judicial review, and we say naturally if the law is not as per the spirit of the constitutions, those are declared as ultra vires. Who suggests those laws? It is the executive. There is a role of executive in formulating and preparing the law, no doubt prepared by the legislature. And the judiciary is also there, that there should not be a procedural lapse. Means the procedure prescribed by the law, procedure prescribed by the constitution, procedure prescribed by the any statutory means for performing certain activities, that should be adhered. And if it is not adhered, in that circumstances, the court can declare that act of administration, that act of organization as null and void. And that's why there should not be a procedural lapse, and it is examined by the court, by the judicial system. There is another important thing. The judiciary also ensure that there should be legality of actions. Whatever actions is performed by the administration or the organization, that should be legal. It should have certain statutory sanctity or the constitutional sanctity. L.D. White states, judicial control over administration ensure legality of the acts of the executive and protects the citizens against unlawful trespass on their constitutional or other rights. Means there should be adequate protections of legal rights and citizen rights and the constitutional rights, and there should not be any illegality on the part of executive to encroach upon those rights. This is to be ensured by the judicial review. This is to be ensured by the judicial control or judicial institutions. Generally, the court or the judicial system does not take up the case itself, that is the suo motu. In the rare circumstances, it is being taken up. But if a aggrieved person appeals to the court that the rights, his legal or the constitutional rights, are not available to him because of the tyranny of the executive, tyranny of the administration, and in that circumstances there may be interference or the intervention by the court. Normally, court prefers not to intervene in the domain of the executive, not to intervene. There is this kind of the philosophy, but it does not mean court is not intervening. The public interest is a very important aspect, and many times in India particularly, if you see that the court has intervened, even went beyond the jurisdiction and that we call the judicial activism, and try to intervene in. Not only this one, there are 5 circumstances when there is an intervention of court and there is a constitutional remedy under Article 32 of the Constitution and Article 226 of the Constitution. That intervention is when there is a lack of jurisdiction, means an authority has, or an organization or administrative action is performed by an agency which doesn't have the jurisdiction to perform it. Then there may be error of law. You understand what is the error of law? That law is wrongly interpreted. Then error of facts finding. That so whatsoever the agency or case submitted to the concerned official, that the facts are not correct. And in that circumstances also appeals are made. Then error of authority means the wrong authority is exercised that is not given to that particular organization or public authority. And error of procedure, we discuss it, that action should be as per the procedure laid down in the law. That is important. Normally, as I stated earlier, the court doesn't interfere, but if it requires, it directs the concerned agencies, concerned executive or the public authority to take the corrective action. And this is also considered one of the most effective means of control, external and formal control over the administration or over the organization or the working of the organization. And this way, this is an important one.